Release the Quacken!
Greetings, fellow game designers. Ron here at Lame Duck Studios. In this tutorial, we're going to go over how to create a very simple house. Now, this is a recreation of an older tutorial where I made a house back in, this was a couple years ago now. I think this is Unreal 4.16 or something like that. So it's time for a fresh update on it. So yeah, if you guys want to watch the old one, you're more than welcome to. It is still, all the techniques still apply. But I'm going to try to make this one a little bit different, also make it simple, or a lot simpler than the previous one. And I also want to touch on some more advanced lighting techniques as we go. So we're in 4.24. This will work for 4.24 and above. Anyway, so if you've already seen it, awesome. If you want to continue on, good job. All right, so we are in the scene that we had from the BSP tutorial. So if you're in that, that's fine. I'm just going to go ahead and clear everything out and set my lights up. So I'm going to go to where it says player collision up here, make sure I'm in lit mode. And I don't really need any of the stuff that's in my browser here. If you want this stuff, you're welcome to keep it. I'm just going to go ahead and nuke it all. So before I can actually nuke it, let's go ahead and create our level. So I'm going to go to File, come down to New Level. I'm going to grab an empty level. And it's up to you if you want to save the current one that you're in. I'm going to be deleting a lot of this stuff, so up to you. I'm just going to say no. And now I'm in a blank, nothing world. Okay? I'm going to come over to my left. And again, if you want to keep this stuff, it's up to you. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of it. So I'm going to select everything in here and just kind of delete it off. And we'll be starting fresh. Okay, so there's nothing in here, nothing in there. And the first thing I want to do is actually save the world that I'm in. So I'm going to go up into File, Save Current. It'll save the current level that I'm in. This is going to be House. And I'm going to go ahead and put this in a folder. So right here on Content, go ahead and right-click, add a new folder. We'll call this Maps. And then hit Save. So now we have a maps folder, and inside of there, we have the level that we're currently in. That's pretty cool. Another thing I want to add is the starter content. So my usual thing is to not use starter content. I like making stuff all by myself. But for the sake of time and just so you guys get your hands on stuff right away, and you kind of play with this stuff, we're going to add some starter content. So as much as it hurts my soul, I'm going to do it for you. So I'm going to go up to Content. I'm going to come up to Add New, and then up top here we have Add Feature or Content Pack. I'm going to open that up. And you can add whatever you like, but I'm going to go over to the Content Packs, and I'm just going to add in the starter content. We don't need the mobile content because we're working on desktop, but this is just some lighter packages for working with mobile stuff. But we're going to have the basic starter content. And then Add Project. This is going to take a few minutes, but through the miracle of editing, it'll be instantaneous for us. Well, bam, and that was pretty quick. All right. Once it drops your starter content in here, we don't need this open anymore. We'll go ahead and close the window. Go ahead and close that up. You can see we have a bunch of stuff in our starter pack. We have our map folder and our content folder. And now we can begin making our house. And I'm going to go ahead and add in my floor piece. I'm going to go up to Geometry. And I'm going to add in a BSP box. Okay, go ahead and drag that box brush, bring it in. And then over here in the Details panel on the right, go ahead and look for your brush settings. You could, of course, scale your BSP, but I would highly recommend avoiding scaling these unless you really need to. You're better off setting your brush sizes. So I'm going to come in here, where it says Brush Setting, go down to my Z here, and just to make sure that my floor isn't too thick, I'm going to drop it down to 20. So that is 20 centimeters. Okay, and one Unreal unit is 1 centimeter, and then the actual floor piece is going to be a little bit bigger than this. I'm going to do 1,000 by 1,000. So there is my floor. Now if you want to have different floor sections, you can do different colors and such. You're welcome to break this up into floor tiles or floor pieces if you want. To keep it simple, we're just going to make a very, very boxy house, and we're going to work on the inside. Now, there are a few cheats that we could do. We could set everything so that this is hollow. For example, if I did 1,000 by 1,000 by 1,000, and then I set it to hollow, so right down here, where it says hollow, hit the checkbox. Now there's an inside, and immediately we have a floor, ceiling, walls, and such. But that would be too easy, and we want to learn stuff. So let's go ahead and not make this hollow. I'm going to set my Z back down to 20. And we'll make our walls by hand. First thing I want to do, though, is I want to come up to here for my location. I'm going to go ahead and set these all to 0. So location, 0. Location Y is going to be 0. And location Z is going to be 0. This gives me the center of the world. And then everything else I make off of that is in place. Now, it doesn't necessarily matter, but I like to know where the center of my world is. And just having my floor piece set there helps me out a lot. Okay, to make the walls, we could drag in another BSP box. Or we could duplicate what we already have here. So I'm going to go ahead and hold down the Alt key. And then I'm going to drag one of my arrows. I'm going to drag this blue arrow, drag it up. I'm going to let go. And now we have a duplicate. Now, if you happen to let go of Alt early, it might not duplicate. Okay, so we have that. And to make a wall, technically all I have to do is rotate. But you'll see that there's a problem when you rotate. So go ahead and rotate it. So I'm going to go and just rotate this. I'm going to bring my Move tool back up by hitting W. And you can see that our axis has changed. I'm going to go ahead and move him over here. If I select this one, you can see Z is up. If I grab this one, my Z is to the side. Now this happens if we are in object orientation. So if I go up to this little icon right here, you might have a little planet. If you have a planet, you are in world orientation. If I go and hit it and make it into the little box, you are now in object orientation. Now, just as a quick overview, if you don't remember from last time, this affects how your object is drawn in your scene. Okay. Now, why this is important is if you come over to your brush sizes. Oh, just a pro tip: if you make a BSP, your brush sizes are like right here. But if you deselect and then reselect, you'll notice that your brush sizes get moved down a little bit. Okay, so they're not gone; they got moved around inside the editor. So I'm gonna kind of scroll down in here. So to kind of sell the point, you can see my Z arrow in world up is set to how much? It's set to 20. But how tall is my floor? Well, we know that our floor was 1,000 by 1,000, so our floor is 1,000 tall. Well, 20 units is not 1,000 units, right? And if I were to go ahead and change this, you can see we're in Z. Z is the blue arrow. It doesn't match. If I were to go and say 500, it got bigger around what arrow? It got bigger around the Y arrow, but the Y arrow is set to 1,000. If you're not aware of that sort of thing, it's going to mess your brain up. What's happening is these sizes are based on the object orientation. So if I go ahead and click this world, you can see that now the arrow has fixed itself. So as we adjusted our Z value, Z this way is 500, Y this way is 1,000. Okay, so if you want to be okay with your values and swapping them out, cool. Just make sure you're an object and you can see them here. I'm a bit OCD, and I would much rather, personally, stay in my world orientation and just not try rotating my BSP. So what I'm going to do is go up and change my rotation back to 0. So my rotation is 0, 0, 0. And I'm just going to make sure that instead of rotating my BSP, I'm just going to change the brush sizes. Again, you can do this however you like, but I'm OCD and I like numbers being what they should be. So I'm going to go down here and I'm just going to make sure that for my Z value, I'm going to leave it at 500. I think that's a good wall height. But for my wall thickness, I'm just going to change my Y value because my wall is going this way. I'll change my Y value this time to 20. And now I have a wall of the appropriate size in the appropriate direction, and if I were to throw any numbers in here, they would match where the arrows are pointing. Okay. Now I'm going to bring this up just a bit and bring it to the floor. That way it lines up nice and pretty. Pro tip, if you bring your wall above your floor and press the end key, it'll snap it down for you. Very handy. I'll go ahead and drag back, line it up to that rear edge there. Make sure I'm good. Yay! So that's one wall. Let's go ahead and make the other wall. Very easy. All we're going to do is duplicate. So I'm going to hold down the Alt key. I'm going to grab this green arrow here. I'm going to drag it off. Let go. Now I have my new wall. And then I'm going to just move it into place. Now if you keep holding Alt as you do this, you're going to be making copy after copy after copy. So just be aware of that. We don't want to have a bunch of these. Make sure what keys you're pressing. Okay. So that's one wall, two wall. We need a third wall. Let's go ahead and drag out to make our new one. So Alt, move it, let it go. But this wall's facing the wrong way. Again, you could rotate the wall. But if we rotate the wall, what's going to happen is our arrows are not going to line up with our numbers. So if you have to ever come in and adjust your brush sizes, it's going to mess you up. So instead of rotating it, I'm just going to swap its value. I'll set my rotation back to 0. And this time, bring up my move tool, W. I want my X arrow to be 20 units. So go to X, 20 units. And my Y can be the length. So we had that set to 1,000. So I'll do that and do 1,000. Look at that. Go ahead and move this into position. And then I'll move it back. Make sure it lines up. Good, good. Now what you're going to see is overlap. So this wall overlaps this wall. See that? A little extra overhang right there? If that bugs you, and if you're OCD like me, it probably will, you're going to want to prevent overlaps happening. So overlaps can be a bad thing. What happens is the renderer won't know which one to draw first. So sometimes you want to keep it that way where that does not overlap. In my case, I'm going to go ahead and select my wall and just do a little bit of math and figure out how big the wall needs to be to fit here. It's pretty easy. If I were to take the current length of my wall, which is 1,000, and I can take the current width of this wall, which is 20. So if I go back down, this wall is 20 in the Y. This wall is 20 in the Y. That's a total of how many units? 40. So that means if I take this one, which is currently 1,000 units in the Y, and I subtract 40 from it, I'm going to get a number that should fit in between this space. So 1,000 minus 40 is 960. Right? So 960. And now I have a wall that is the exact size that fits. You can see it lined up there. Pixel perfect. Look at that. Pixel perfect. And then I can take this wall, hold down the Alt key, drag it, and move it to here. Pro tip, if you ever wanted to move a wall or move an object, say like I wanted to move this back, and then I have to move my camera, you can actually hold down the Shift key as you move something. So hold Shift and then move it, and you'll move with it, which is really handy. Okay? Make sure I line my wall back up. I just messed it up there. There we go. So now I have a room. Spacious. Lovely. But I need a ceiling. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this piece. My floor can be my ceiling now. I'm going to hold down the Alt key. Drag up. Move it into position. Look at that. Now I have a ceiling and a floor and walls. Let's go ahead and name these things, okay? I'm going to go ahead and grab my bottom piece, and you can see when I grab it, it highlights it here. And if you look in the outliner, you'll see brush 1 or brush 0, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you don't know what brush it is, let's say I was like out here and I was just looking at the list. And I was like, well, I want to grab the floor. Which one's the floor? Well, simple deduction, you know, the first one that you made is the floor. So it has no number on it, so that's probably going to be the floor. But it would be a lot simpler if we knew what the floor was by looking in our list and being able to pick it. So I'm going to go ahead and select my floor piece. I'm going to come down into the details panel here. Right now it says box brush. I'm going to name this one floor. Okay. Based on the arrow, because X is forward, I'm going to take my red arrow. I'm going to grab this wall here. See how the arrow is pointing in that direction? This wall is going to be my front wall. So I'm going to go ahead and do front wall. So front wall. Go over to the back wall. And you can see that's where the butt of the arrow is. So this is the back wall. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take my next wall. Now, if you look, this arrow is pointing in that direction, right? So if this X arrow is pointing toward the front, that means this arrow is pointing in what direction? If you said left, you're wrong. Because if I turn around, because now this arrow is pointing toward the front, this arrow is pointing toward my right. So this wall over here, where the arrow is pointing, this is the right wall, and then the one that is near the butt of the arrow, this would be the left wall. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and grab whichever wall. So here's my left wall. I'm going to go ahead and name it left wall. I'm going to go to the right wall. I'm going to name this one right wall. And now I need my ceiling. Pretty easy. Just got to grab the thing on top and name it ceiling. And there's a difference between a ceiling and a roof. The ceiling is the top of the room. The roof is the top of the house. Anyway, everything's named. That's all cool. Go ahead and hit save all. Yay. So now we have our house built. And the next one, we're going to go ahead and start adding some color, some furniture, and some lights. Okay? Go ahead and save your work, and I shall see you in the next one. Hey guys, we have done it. We're at 1,000 subscribers, and I have you to thank for it. Couldn't be happier. Thank you, awesome. Channel's been going on for a couple of years now, and we are at that point where we can kind of start moving forward and getting all kinds of awesome stuff, right? 1,000 subscribers is just a little bit away from 1,000,000 subscribers. All right, small milestones at a time. Yeah, it's been a big, long time coming, so thank you so much. Thank you for subscribing and, of course, staying interested and learning, and that you would come to me to learn all kinds of neat stuff. That being said, I want to do something and celebrate. So what should we do? What should we make? I'm a big fan of doing like clones of games. I have a list on my Patreon as a poll. You can kind of go there and you don't have to sign up or anything, although I'd love it if you did. But if you head over there, it's publicly available. You just go to the poll and pick the one that you want. I put about 7 or so. So yeah, so 7 of those. But I picked like a Mario 64 clone or Star Fox 64. I really wanted to make a Star Fox clone for like a long time. But Mario would be kind of cool. Always a big fan of Blood Omen Legacy of Kain. Do those. Or Soul Reaver. Big fan of Soul Reaver series. I like make Raziel and that sort of thing. FTL. Why not? Because FTL is kind of neat. Wanted to have something that was different, right? Always a fan of Metroidvanias. So we could do like a Super Metroid kind of setup or a Mortal Kombat kind of setup. So a fighting game. Now I say clones, but they're really going to be... Because of copyright, we couldn't, do Mario 64 outright, right? We couldn't make Mario and we couldn't do everything, but we can certainly make it Mario 64-esque, right? So we'll make a Mario-looking kind of character and dress him up appropriately, and then kind of make the hub world and that sort of thing. I'm going to keep these kind of in scope so that we're not going too far out, because of course, time management's a thing. I teach full time. I also do this and whatever not, so gotta keep it within reason. But I would definitely be, for like the Mario 64 thing, I would make the character and some of the pieces for the hub world and, of course, the bomb level, and kind of get that set up and kind of run through and see how that works. So this would be like a knockoff of that. Same thing with like Star Fox. We would do like the main overworld view and the map and getting into there. Blood Omen. I would probably do the opening sanctuary crypt and then the cemetery when you first get out. Soul Reaver. Probably do the underworld all the way to the first exit. So when you get the first soul and you exit and you transition into the living world. I think the transition from living to dark world would be kind of cool. See how that is done. Plus it would give me a chance to explore doing that inside of Unreal Engine. They initially did this. I don't think they used Unreal for this. They used fun fact is they actually used Unreal for Blood Omen. And then Crystal Dynamics didn't pay their royalty fees and they went under. So make sure you pay your royalty fees. FTL, I would probably do that in Game Maker. It's just a 2D game. Metroidvania kind of deal. You can do that in pretty much anything. We can do it in Unreal, or we can do it in Game Maker, or whichever. I'll let you guys pick what engine you want to do it in. I think for some things it's easier to do it in Game Maker, and in other aspects it would be easier to do it in Unreal. So you just kind of pick your battles there. And then for a fighting game, I would do like a Mortal Kombat style kind of clone. 2 fighters, kind of keep it simple. 1 arena, because setting up the animations is going to be what takes the most time, and keep it simple. Just kind of have like a roadmap of success of how to get that done. So any one of these I think would be great. You can always leave a comment if you think you have a better idea, but definitely go over here, and if this is something you would like to do or like to see me make as sort of the 1,000 subscriber reward, because we've hit it, definitely go over here and check it. And yeah, you'll see the link in the description. And once again, thank you guys for supporting the channel, and I will see you next time.